Good evening and welcome to your Thursday edition of This is Ibrox podcast after another, we'll say, disappointing Rangers performance. Don't want to go too harsh too quickly, but my name's Iain Mitchell and I'm joined by Tommy MacIntyre. Tommy, how are you, first of all? I'll just ask for your initial thoughts on that game yesterday before we break it down in detail, but not any massive surprises in that performance, I'll say.
No, well, first of all, yeah, nice to see you, Iain. In terms of the performance, we've seen it before, and we'll get into it. Unfortunately, it's a bit Groundhog Day. See, I'm getting my Christmas movie reference in quite early there. I'm ahead of the curve, and yeah, unfortunately, this becomes the norm, and we're not seeing as much change as we want. But yeah, let's dig into it as usual.
Yeah, we'll go right back to the start because I remember on Tuesday sitting here with Hef, we talked about the lineup. What we thought would happen was what did happen in terms of the same names, the same faces, putting out the same performance, which I don't think has shocked anyone. Still no place for Finlay Curtis, Lyle Cameron. It's pretty well documented at this point. Don't get me wrong, I think some people are acting like they might be the saviours, but I think it's just a case of us all wanting some freshness. But what was your take on that starting lineup? We saw Gassama keep his place on the right. We saw Danilo in that number 10 position. I kind of know what you're going to say here, but it's very similar to what we've seen for weeks now. It's just a bit mundane, to put it very nicely.
Yeah, pretty much. It's same old. And I think you're right. Some people, it's the old conundrum. People on the bench who don't appear become saviours, right? They're the kind of best player across the water, so to speak. But, you know, you're Danny Rohl, you're looking at it, you're going, this is what I've got, right? And certainly what I've got until the winter window, and we can discuss the merits or the devalues of the winter window as well. And he's trying to get a tune out of them some way, you know, by hook or by crook. He's mixed it up a little bit by Rami coming in and stuff like that as well. But ultimately, there's not a lot in this squad where you would go, right, they deserve to hold on to their jersey. Maybe Gassama aside, although we could talk about showing flashes and always delivering or whatever. But there's not a lot of jerseys in there where you go, right, they're absolutely nailed on and they shouldn't be changed. But then you look at how you're going to change it and you go, the quality is just not there. You know, you're switching out players, he's hoping for a reaction, he's hoping to get something, you're hoping for that one-off performance, somebody takes their chance. The only consistent thing about this team is nobody takes their chance.
It's very true. It's quite damning, but it's absolutely flat.
We can get any chances being missed later on as well, by the way.
It's quite a lot of that to come, don't worry. But we'll go back to the start. As I said, pretty frantic, chaotic start. Probably as we've come to expect for Rangers playing away from home these days. But the major point in the first half there was Dundee United's goal. Again, there's a few points of failure, as always, with any Rangers goal it conceded. I think we'll say it's a good finish from Sapsford, who takes it pretty well. I've saw a few people questioning Butland going down a bit early. I don't buy into that personally, but I think if we're looking at it from a Rangers point of view, Fernandez gets turned too easily, can't then recover. Jigga's too slow to react. Tavernier's nowhere involved there. McHoma in the first place is caught out pressing a ball he maybe shouldn't. Again, it's just the same sort of, it's not one big error maybe, but it's 3 or 4 mini critical errors that lead to this happening. But who's your main blame going in for that one?
Well, I think it needs to go in terms of the first ball. So it comes in, he's too easily turned, as you referenced there as well. So it's a back four failure based on one person's first initial failure, which is out wide, the ball's played simply down, he's turned too easily, he doesn't have the pace to match up to him, and then he thinks about maybe pulling him, pulls back. I'm with you, I think it's a good finish. Butland is trying to close the angles and he dinks it over him. But yeah, there's a couple of things there. In one, he's caught out, and then 2, the centre back pairing aren't quick enough to react either to close the space out because they're thinking the man's going to get there. We've seen this a few times, which is simple balls down the channel, simple balls over the top, consistently catch out this back four, right? Particularly the centre to left side. But I'm going to have to say your initial ball is where it needs to be won. If you're going to match up to a man and you're going to go tight to him, which he tries to do, you cannot be absolutely scammed out there. Not a word I use that often when it comes to football, just being scammed at the byline. Right? He's been scammed there, and then he doesn't have anything about him to get back. He's not sharp enough to make the pullback as soon as it happens and maybe pick up a yellow instead of allowing him to get into the box. And at which time he thinks about it, and then nobody's closed up the angle. So you're looking for your other defenders to be looking at him and going, he doesn't have the pace here. Who's the best person to come across and close the angle and make sure the keeper and a defender are doing it at the same time? Nobody's done that. So it's a collective failure based on the fact that they don't seem to work fantastically well together, but predicated primarily on the fact that one man has made a monumental error when he goes to try and close the ball down early and get absolutely done.
Yeah, I think it's quite telling when you look at when the ball is being shot, just at the very end of the move. Jigga's just in absolute no man's land. He's not covering attacker. He's not covering the ball, blocking anything. He's just in about the area. It's just, again, if that's maybe if it's two guys that have played together a bit more, that understanding might be there a little bit more. I don't know if that's an easy excuse, but as you say, if one presses, one drops off, you see that amateur football. It's a pretty basic defensive trait for two centre backs.
I'm with you on that, and I think there's some element of the players playing together consistently and all that type of stuff. Not forgetting the fact they train together, they play in training together, right? People always walk past that part. It's not as if they don't do that stuff as well. Not just making handshakes in the tunnel for the first time ever. You know what I mean? I know you're not saying that by the way either, but it's that part. We always talk about it. Maybe for ease of example here, right? You always talk about strikers who go in expecting a mistake from a defender or keeper and they get tap-ins and all that type of stuff in the right place. Same goes for the best defenders, and in particular the best defensive units. They sometimes smell a mistake coming. So when he's going to match up there, you're looking for somebody to just take an extra couple of yards across, just on the off chance that their teammate gets beaten, and then they can go and close a space down. You don't come massively out of position, but what you do is you put yourself in a position to cover the gap, or to make it much more difficult. What he's done is he's beat him. What is it, a good 30 yards away, 35 yards away?
Least. Yep.
And then he's beat him on the touchline, and he's got a straight run into the box, and it's the guy he's beat who's chasing him. Nobody else comes across to close the angle. It's just him and then the goalkeeper. That's it. And you're thinking, actually, a really well-working collective, slick defence would pivot to say, actually, you run into somebody else. Because it's not as if it's not done it with 5 yards to go and he's went straight across into the 18-yard line. Not done that. All that space to travel, knowing fine well, anybody watched it goes, he's not getting caught by a defender chasing him. And that's maybe the frustration there, that you're looking for a wee bit of collective action, which is maybe something that we fall down on consistently as well.
Yeah, and this is not Kylian Mbappe running through with electric pace or anything. It's the Dundee United forward, with all due respect, and it's a good finish.
It's me the Wednesday night 11s. Is essentially what it looks like running, right? So it's not setting the header on fire here. He's towing several tractors, but it tells you something about the defender chasing him. And as I say, he's not cute enough to make the foul outside. Nobody's cute enough or smart enough to then come across and close the door as well. It's
poor from us from the get-go. Now, the next 5-10 minutes, a little bit sloppy. Again, that same area between our centre-backs and left-back just seems to get exposed a good few times. But we'll try and go some positive aspects here. The team recovered pretty well. Started, I won't say dominating, because that's maybe a little extreme, but creating some chances. Majowski, I'm going to say should score. I don't know if it's a could score or should score, but this one, great ball by Raskin. If he gets a bit more on it, I think he scores, but just sort of prods a foot at it, and again, pretty easy save in the end. But we do score. It's a set piece on the right. It's cleared out. Barron tries a shot. I don't know why he's shooting from there, to be fair, but I did then think the same when Mike lined up. But I didn't know he had this in his locker, but it's something that I've been quite keen on seeing from certain players in terms of give us something. I wouldn't necessarily think your left back scoring from 30 yards was there's something, but I think a few of the players could do with a moment like that, just to kind of reiterate, like, I'm a good footballer. I have something to offer here. And it's a great goal, you have to say, for this one.
Oh, cracking goal. Given it's only the two of us on this podcast tonight as well, I'm going to start firing you questions, right? I'm not going to sit here and answer them all. You're on the hook for some of this as well, right? So, no, I think you're right. Listen, any cracking strike like that through the bodies, 20 yards plus, you're thinking, right, that's a cracking goal. Nobody can take that away from him. I think your point is really well made as well, in terms of it's a nice confidence booster. Somebody stepping up from the back, doing something, because defence has been lambasted quite a lot as well. And so, yeah, great technique. I'm with you. I maybe say Miowski could have scored, maybe not should have. I think there, but we can get into the fact that Miowski looks like a different player in terms of what I think
Aberdeen. Miowski scores that. It sounds a bit daft, but I think Miowski in form maybe gets there a second quicker, bit more authority to his shot, whereas it was just as if I'll try and get something on this, and you're not going to score that way.
That might be a good point, and maybe the question to you, Iain, do you think it's style of play, integrating with a new team, Miowski, or is he just lacking confidence?
I think it's the creation of this team, to be honest, because I don't think anyone thought Majowski would come here and be the complete centre forward like Morelos type that holds the ball up, brings players in. I thought we were getting a finisher. And I mean, thinking back, he missed a chance at Livingston when Raskin plays a little flick over and he probably should score. I can't think of much more where you've said, oh, Majowski's got to score there kind of thing. It's just been the odd chance every couple of games. Whereas, like Dessers, if you're feeding him 2, 3, 4 chances a game, I think Majowski does put one away. And then that aspect of it comes in where, you get one that just bounces off you and goes in, get a bit of form, and then he's a different player. He's more up for it. He's more, getting his foot on the end of certain crosses and stuff. I just think he needs something to go in right now, but we're far from helping him to create any chance at all.
No, I think that's a well-made point. The creation element, and we say Dessers, everybody wishing for the ghost of Christmas past. I'm determined to get as many of these in as I possibly can tonight, by the way. And you just realise how much that was given us. But let's not look back the way. I think you're right with Miovski. There's just doesn't seem to be clicking right now, although you could argue we're not clicking at the top of the park, full stop.
Yep, spot on. That does take us to half-time where, again, we were playing pretty well, creating chances, which was a rarity for the last few weeks. There was that one, which I'm trying to keep it semi-positive, but the one, if you remember, when Jig is defending and the guy's running at him, and like you would see under 10s football, he just sort of steps one way, so the attacker goes, well, okay, I'll step inside, and he just leaves him. Free shot, and again, it's a pretty comfortable save, but it's just that whole thing of it's a very easy team. A very easy team to get shots into, to create chances against, because it's like defenders don't do the basics. They don't want to keep clean sheets. They don't have that desire. For me, that's kind of, it has to be inbuilt, especially a game like last night where Dundee United are going to raise their game a little bit. It's the classic cup final thing against any old firm team, but they wanted it a little bit more at times for me still, even despite us looking a bit better going forward. So,
yeah, I think there seems to be something in there about, back to that chance creation point. I'm with you, right? You're looking for people who really want to defend on the front foot. I'm not big on cliches like that all the time, but people who really go for the bodies and really, really want to stop any shot coming in. You look at some of the stats, I think, from the game the other night. I think it was 13 shots for Dundee United versus 32 for us. But to your point, so you're looking at 13 versus 32, we had 10 on target. They had 6. So from a comparison point, from a percentage, right, I'm not going to do the percentages for everybody, but you can see that they're higher because they're getting into better positions. They're not being blocked. They're not being defended against. And it's that quality of chance creation which we seem to allow as well.
Yep.
Whereas other teams are throwing their bodies in front of stuff. They're really, really engaging. They're really front foot defending, where we seem to still be a bit reactive. And that's been a long-standing problem with multiple different defenders across our team. You maybe go back 2 or 3 seasons in there as well, although obviously your likes of Goldsons and stuff like that as well. But yeah, we do seem to be easy to get in behind. We do seem to be easy to... There always seems to be, I don't know, interesting with the watchers and listeners with this one as well, and yourself, we seem to want to stand off at a certain point instead of just matching up to the guy. We were talking about somebody trying to do that and making a mistake of it and leading to a goal earlier, right? But there seems to be this back off, allow them to get across, allow them to get a shot in, the keeper will maybe get it. There just always seems to be that reticence to just engage your man. And maybe I'm an outlier there in feeling that, but I look across the defence and I just think, where is the natural, real intense engagement all the time to win the ball through the man or whatever? It just seems to be a consistent failure of this team as well.
Look how often this team, especially defending, will be pointing at someone rather than doing anything. And my mind's immediately going to Tavernier, and I don't want to go at him because, we've had too many podcasts across the board where Tavernier gets hate for no reason. But he was beaten an awful lot last night in terms of not putting a challenge in, just trying to stand off, and he's not got the pace or recovery anymore to then, get back in if someone does get past him. And like I say, that pointing thing of, oh, it's not my man, I'm pointing over here because you should be doing that, but that guy's pointing back at me. There's no, I'll take him. He's my man. I'll get the ball back. And I think Danny Rohl touched on this on Sunday after the Falkirk game in terms of players. Maybe bravery is not quite the right word, but being able to stand up and make that forward pass he was more referring to. But even last night, I think it's a case of more, I'm not going to allow my man to beat me kind of thing. If I get beaten, fair enough, but I will make sure I stop the cross, I get the foot in, I tackle, I do my part. And again, that would just collectively make us better, I think, if we had that individual mindset rather than just this pointing or, well, I'll hold my shape, you're going to do something kind of thing. And again, it's a bit long-winded, but I do agree with the point. Absolutely.
I think you were sharper there than me. I think Emery's long-winded. It might have been me there, but I've got form for that. But I think your point's really well made. You're looking for maybe inside that there's a communication between players, right? We're talking about a back four operating as a unit and stuff like that. You need passing man on is fine. We all do that. That's making sure that you've communicated that you're passing your man on. Somebody's taking the responsibility. You know, as Andrew Gill there says, it's called personal responsibility. So I'm either matching up to my man, or I'm taking the responsibility to say, Iain, I'm passing him on to you because he's moving, and then it's your responsibility to acknowledge that and take him on, right? So that's fine. The transfer of responsibility happens in life, right? And it happens in the football field. We've all done it. Back to the point. It's just being really, really clear on what that is. Football's a simple game. Match up to your man and do better, right? And results will come. We can talk tactics. We can talk XGs. We can talk all that stuff, right? But really, at its heart, me versus you, I beat you, I've put my team in a better position. That's it, right? That's it. But that personal responsibility bit is for me to step over the line and dominate you. And if I'm having to do something in the team, passing it on, keeping alert, covering, making sure I'm talking, I just don't think we are always consistent or slick at that. You see gaps opening up and you say, well, who's taking that there? And it's not as if we play zonal marking, right? So that's not an excuse. It's a flawed system. It's been overlaid. We go man for man, right? To a large extent, right? We go block by block. But there just doesn't seem to happen, and people just run off us really, really simply. I do often wonder there's that gap creation as well in front of the back four sometimes, but we've seen multiple times where a simple ball over the top has absolutely done us as well. We just don't seem to have a consistent shape that works.
Nope. There's a very good point here from Robert, who said has a lack of confidence just drained the pace and intensity. I think I hope it is in a way, because you hope that if they get the confidence back, it maybe fixes that intensity part. I don't know how in sync both would be, but just hoping a few wins might fix that. But going forward, we do start the second half well.
Just to come back to that, right? Because I think it's a great point, Robert, right? But as it appears on my screen here, right? You come behind, peeking through the curtain here on a podcast, not right? But as it appears on my screen, right, you've got that, and then you've got Andrew Gill's comment about it's called personal responsibility. So whilst I agree, confidence in any environment, in any job, right, can drain your confidence level if you're having bad results or whatever. But that's where that personal responsibility comes from, right? Because no matter how confident or not you are, there should be a lack of respect for your own talent. And it shouldn't ask you too much to say, I'm going to give the 100%, I'm going to track my man, I'm going to get physical. You know what I mean? You maybe talk about confidence levels when it comes to challenges, positioning, shot creation, or whatever, right? Scoring goals, facing up to a keeper, but just being intense, being pacey, matching up to your man, keeping alert, are these things really going to be drained by confidence? Not sure. Again, I'm not disagreeing massively with Robert there. I'm just saying that there's two sides to that street, and it depends what you want to walk on. Again, we can talk about managers, coaches, on the grass, all that stuff. Player personal responsibility continually does not get enough focus.
It's very interesting discussion. I think when you think about this team, like that comment from James that I flagged up there, the players should be good enough to just say, like, again, bit of respect here, but you are Dundee United, you are Falkirk, you're a Livingston player, I am a Rangers player. I'm going to dominate you. And if every player in that team thought the same, I think we'd play a lot better. Doesn't sound rocket science, does it?
But it goes back to that point as well of individuals versus team. So you get a team like Dundee United fighting for each other, scrapping, covering spaces, putting in the extra effort, whereas you got us maybe passing the ball about going, well, I'm not going to take it, I'm going to give it to somebody else and they're going to create something. Or somebody else is going to track that man, or he will catch him from the byline even though he's been turned. You know, that type of mentality, which is maybe where I can get Robert and Andrew's cross point there of, maybe that's where the confidence point comes in. It's not my responsibility to go and win this game. I just don't want to make a mistake. That's a different thing.
Very much so. But we do start the second half well. We have a few missed chances to run through here. Some are worse than others, but we have Gassama's trickle of a shot on the end of a Raskin pass, which then leads to Danilo freezing in front of goal, I think. Danilo does also hit the bar before that with an overhead kick, which is well taken, but from 4 or 5 yards out, I would want my striker to score. That one I'm a little bit more harsh with, clearly. But as classic Rangers...
Coming into Scrooge this season, to be honest with you. That's a tough one.
Another one. Nice.
That's a tough one.
It's tough.
I'm three now. I'm three.
For me, you have to score one of them, but we don't. And then, of course, as Rangers fans, you know what's coming next. Dundee United go and score. Again, I'm going to look at it from the Dundee United point of view. It's a really good finish. The shot itself is well taken. It puts it in the corner. Butland can't do much, but we have, I think I counted 5 chances to clear this ball or make the block or take that yellow card, like you mentioned before. We see Majowski a bit half-assed try to get to it. Raskin falls over. I think Barron as well is culpable here. There's so many chances to stop this shot coming in, but classic Rangers, you let the shot in, the guy takes it. Probably the best goal he'll score all season in terms of a nice finish. But we've got to do better, right?
Well, listen, 100%. You can talk about, first of all, I think you're right. You acknowledge it's a good finish, nice, tidy run, but it's not prime Messi here, and that's not me being a naysayer. I think it's a good finish and a good goal and all that type of stuff. But your point is spot on. There's just weak challenges or non-existent challenges. Now I get some of the latter part is in around the box, and so people may be wary about giving away a penalty and stuff like that as well. But nobody can watch that kind of 10 seconds as he picks the ball up and he comes inside and think those players that he's going past are really, really going for it. It's in their mind to stop this attack. It's all a bit half-hearted. It's all a wee bit nervous. And then the next thing you know is a really good finish. And it is a good finish, right? I'm not going to walk past that. But yeah, you're right. Multiple times to clear it, multiple chances. And it's not as if they've massively cut us open. It's just been a nice wee swan run. And he pings it into the back of the net on the back of, I feel like I'm being nothing but negative tonight, but off the back of people not wanting to kill the run. Just kill the run, right? Go through them, go through the ball, don't give the pen, particularly when it's outside box, and do something. But it's all about, I'll think about going and then I'll leave it to the next.
Even before the ball comes out to that guy, but the corner comes in and they win the first header, they win the second header, and we're scrambling to try and just keep it out the net. I think is it Danilo who just again falls over before the ball goes over to the attacker. Just so many individual mini errors. Again, presents him for I was going to say an easy shot. It's not an easy shot by any means, but presents him with an opportunity at very least, which we could have cut out so simply. No.
Again, I think you're spot on there, and I'm definitely not walking past the fact that it starts. I was just concentrating on that last part, but you're absolutely right in terms of. Multiple times, multiple chances to clear it and break down the attack, and we don't take them. You know, it just opens up, and you actually watch the kind of video clip of that part, right, and the highlights and stuff like that as well, which I've watched back a couple of times today in preparation for this. Nobody looks like they're dying to win it.
No.
Right. You'll see everybody sits. They all sit. And you're thinking, well, it's in the air and stuff like that. Go and really get to it. And I think maybe that comes back. There's a theme to tonight, obviously, right, to some extent, which is players taking that responsibility, saying they're going to change the game, matching up, being intense. And it just doesn't look like that's always there. It looks as though maybe it'll happen, as opposed to, well, we're Rangers, check the badge, we're going to go make it happen.
Yeah.
And we need to get to that second part of it. Right, we've got to start driving that feeling into ourselves, because that's how you then start to drive it into your, the teams you come up against, because you're saying you should be thinking about us and how we're going to take you apart. You do not think, as Rangers come up against teams, that any teams think like that. You know, they don't think on the defensive. They think about how they can get at us, and we need to start putting that level of fear back in. And it's been a good few seasons since it's felt like that domestically. Teams just do not think, all right, we'll look at their team sheet, we're in for a tough time tonight.
It's quite good timing here, this comment from Doddington, where the second half there, nobody in our squad has that do or die winning mentality. We need a few hardy seasoned leaders. We're all saying it. It's absolutely spot on. And I think that's got to be the priority going forward, to just build a spine, build a team of guys who do have that desire, who do have that passion, but it's much easier said than done, obviously, with the kind of funds that we're going to have to spend, obviously, which is slightly worrying, but we'll come to that in another podcast, I'm sure. There's a couple of penalty shouts here. The one with Fernandez handball, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'd be screaming for it if it was me. I've seen a few different perceptions on it. His hand was down, his hand was out. You know, I don't know what a penalty is these days. I don't think anyone does. But how that didn't go to VAR at least, you know, I'm not too sure. On our end, there is.
Yeah, nobody knows what constitutes a penalty anymore. I'm not sure anymore. It could be anything. Particularly in this, I think there's normal UEFA and FIFA rules, and then there's Scottish VAR, which is like an inverted through the looking glass Alice in Wonderland type VAR system, depending on what colour your jersey is. So, best of luck. Anybody try to solve that conundrum for us this side of Christmas.
Well, we also have the third choice of the Michael Stewart take on things, where if it's for Rangers, it's not a penalty, and if it's the other way about, it's a penalty. So thankfully we're not going to talk on him too long. But we have Gassama booked for diving, starting to get a little bit of a reputation, sadly, which I've seen him go down a few times a bit easily. Again, last night, it's never a penalty for me. I'll call that as I see it. No. We can quickly gloss over that. But the next thing we need to talk about is not any sweeter. We do see a few subs. So Diomande and Aaron's come on, along with Chermiti, who we're going to come to in a second, with Raskin, Danilo and Tav going off. We also get Asgard coming on about 10 minutes after this for Majovski. I put in my notes that it was strange subs at the time, and again, looking back, Aaron's wins a penalty, Chermiti has his moment, which again, we're sadly coming to. But what were your thoughts on Danny Rohl's subs here? Because that's been the kind of talk of today in terms of like Twitter and Facebook. It's you're not allowed to have a go at Danny Rohl in any way, or else people are starting to properly have a go in terms of the selections, the subs. Where do you stand on that right now?
Well, I'm going to turn the question around actually and ask you, right? But the one thing I will say before that is Danny Rohl's in the job. He's absolutely open to having a go at him, right? Once you take the job, that's it, right? Yep. But one of the key parts of being a Rangers manager is standards start from the beginning. Now, he's been dealt a bad hand. We all know that. He also knew that coming into the job. And so it's not a case of being overly negative because you put it in its context, but we don't walk away from the standard of you've got to deliver to some extent. Now, if there's failures there, which we all see in terms of the playing squad, that's fine. But selections in game as well was one of his selling points, being able to change it up and stuff like that. So everybody has to be accountable. Personal responsibility doesn't stop at the white line, doesn't start at the white line. It goes all the way up to the boardroom. It goes all the way down. And in this case, Rangers right now, it goes across the Atlantic as well. So everybody's in the frame for that. But I put the question back to you then, in terms of the changes and Danny Rohl and where are you going with that?
There must be something going on in terms of Curtis and Cameron and why they're not getting a sniff. I know both have had injuries, both have had time away for the squads and stuff, so maybe it is a fitness thing. But for me, if I was those guys, I'd be questioning, well, why is Asgard getting on the pitch before me? Why is Diomande getting another shot? Why is, again, Ant-Man starting as he was before his injury ahead of Curtis? Again, I don't want Danny Rohl to buckle to any fan pressure at all. I want him to see things in training, see effort, see application, see tactically who's doing the right thing and pick on the back of that. That's fine. But in terms of last night, we need a goal, we need someone to do something. I'm looking at that going, well, I don't think Chermiti's going to score. Yeah, it comes on. I don't see Diomande scoring or assisting. He comes on. Aaron's, I said at the time, he's not going to get you a goal. Look a bit egg on face at that, but I'll bypass that one quickly. Asgard coming on, you're not going to do anything in that scenario. I would much rather see a Cameron get 10-15 minutes. Give me Curtis for 10-15 minutes. I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters, but if you're those guys, I just think your Rangers career's starting to look over before it's even began, because why would they hang around if they're not going to get any opportunities here? We've seen it for years with certain other players. The talk last week was of Bailey Rice getting a move. I don't really care about that one, to be honest, I will admit. But there's a few subs that I'm just not fully agreeing with. And you know what? If these guys come on and do well, I will happily eat humble pie. I will say, you got it right, Danny. That's why you're there and I'm on a podcast. But I do think there's a couple of questions that need asked. Not in any serious way. I would not be... I've seen a couple of tweets saying he's just another Russell Martin or he's not this. That's absolute madness. Complete madness. But I'm questioning certain decisions. I'll leave it as light as that for now.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he's another Russell Martin in any way, shape or form. I think you're right in terms of those players might be looking at what's happening and can they break into this squad because it's underperforming. Could be the fact that young players, he doesn't want to fire them straight in. in difficult circumstances. That said, if you're old enough to make the squad and be on the bench, you need to contribute, and the manager should be thinking about that as well. But I do get some of the protective element to it. Ultimately, he's seen them in training. Does he think they're good enough? When he looks at the game and he thinks, right, I want to go with, what was established players in terms of Diamande and Asgard in particular, and Chermiti is, the big buy, trying to get something out of the guy as well. And I don't think there's anybody listening, watching this podcast who doesn't want Chermiti to score, right? We all want to become good. I think primarily, certainly for me, I want to become good so I can get rid of him, right? But ultimately, we're looking for that, and he's getting his chances. But also, if you're looking across it and you're going, right, there's not a lot of change. It comes back full circle at the start of this podcast as well. As you look at it, what we're saying is, as you cut through the so-called quality of this squad, you end up with the conversation of, should Leo Cameron and Quinley Curtis be the ones starting, right? And that's I'm not having a go at them, right? But that tells you something about the overall quality of the squad, that this is where the conversation is getting to. Are they our game changers? And that's the point you're making. Are they our game changers versus Diamande, Asgard, Chermiti? And it's just not, it's not the highest quality that you would expect. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you've got these players, particularly Cameron brought them in, Curtis, you've grown, they've got to get a chance at some point, or indeed they're going to look at the summer and think, right, I need my career to go somewhere else. But I'm sure they're not overly concerned about the fact that they've got competition for places that maybe won't be happening come summer, because there'll be players in that squad that have moved out as well.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
We spoke on
Chermiti there. He obviously misses that chance.
Yeah,
it's indefensible. Again, I was never a good header of the ball, so I have sympathy with guys that miss headed chances. But not even £8 million, nothing like that. Any footballer should be scoring that chance. Striker, £8 million, whatever it is. You can't miss that. I think you see Fernandez's reaction on top of him, just almost asking, how have you missed that? It's not going to do his confidence any better, but it's a bad one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, nobody watches me play football, so I'm just going to say I'm amazing at heading the ball and taking it right. There's a couple of my friends who play on a Wednesday night who would know that is absolutely not true, right? But anybody can miss a chance, first of all, right? Anybody can miss a chance. In its context, he's missed that chance, which the best strikers in the world have missed chances even worse, right? Or even better, depends how you want to look at that, right? But it happens. The context is he doesn't look like he can hit a barn door, right? And he consistently shapes up to chances wrong. The body shape, the confidence level, the striking of it, the chances that he's had and the opportunities to get it on target, and we come back to it, not even getting it on target, gives you no confidence. So it's not like that's unusual for him. He's not buried it, but it'll be along again in a minute to get another one. You've looked at Chermiti. We've all looked at Chermiti. And what we've seen with our eyes, I'm sure there's people out there in stats world that would tell me that the stats and all his kind of previous performances and all the way that he's been through from under 15 to under 23 for Portugal really give a direction of travel for him. Best of luck with that, right? Doesn't put millions in the bank, doesn't put the ball in the back of the net, evidently. You don't think that he's ever going to score. Now, we all want to become good. We want to get that first kind of goal, and it leads into a streak, to reignite him again. But he doesn't look as if he's ever going to do it. And that's just another one for the block. All right, he's missed a game. He's missed a game. Should have buried that chance. And teammates with their heads and their hands and stuff like that as well, it ends up going, that's who's leading your line. That's the guy. Comes back to, if you're a defence coming up against him, you're not going to be incredibly scared that he's going to bury a hat-trick against you or anything like that. We just don't look, we look pretty toothless up there at that point in time. And I wish the boy all the very best, but the sooner he comes out of a blue jersey, the better.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You don't want to sit and target one specific player week after week, pod after pod, but he's given us ammunition to do that. It's not his fault, the fee, all this kind of stuff is absolute facts, but when we're relying on you to come on and get a goal, and that's what we see, people have understandably written him off. And again, I think if we got any loan offer, any sort of fee, obviously, in January, you just cut that tie, try and forget this whole episode ever happened.
But I do appreciate. I just want to bookend that by saying I do appreciate he's young. Right, he is really young. We can all appreciate that. But at the same time, he's been in and around, and there's a reason why I referenced that under 15 all the way up to under 23 Portugal. Right, he's been looked at in every single age group and been told that he's pretty decent. Portugal's not a walk-in. We're not talking about the Cayman Islands here or something like that. Anyway, Liechtenstein. It's tough to get in there amongst that. He's went for decent money into the Premiership, very decent money to us. So there's numerous coaches and setups looking at him going, it's going to happen at some point. The problem again on top of, and you're right, we don't want to focus on one player, right? It's a collective effort as well, but he's getting the chances, and his job to help the collective is to stick it in the back of the net, right? You look at it consistently in his career, from those age groups as well, there's been no point where he's banged them in. There's been no point. We bought him hoping he's going to pop here. And so far what we've seen hasn't matched up to either Adesers, whereas he's in amongst it, making chances, getting on target, he'll score a barrel load, he'll miss a barrel load, that's fine, you still move him on. Or raw talent like an Igamani, where he was a bit chaotic sometimes, but you could see it, and he was banging in some goals as well. He's not done any of that. He's been away on the outside of the fringe, getting into places and then doing nothing with it consistently. And he's been getting chances in the jersey, both off the bench and starting. That's the problem that every Rangers fan looking at him going, just give me something that I can hang my hat on, please, here, Yusuf. Right? Yep. And then we can get behind you.
Yep, some very negative comments that are going to bring us even further back down to earth. Chermiti's Olden Igaman, who's scoring in the French league, as we see every time he scores, which is fun. And Big Phil with another Cortez, which is a name none of us like to see, who I think is actually coming back in January, if rumours are right, which is great. So, yeah, we love that. But we will end. I was going to say a positive. It's not really a positive, rescuing a draw here, but we don't lose. We remain unrelenting
negativity this evening, Ian. Let's
trying so hard. We do have the longest unbeaten run in the league because of this. 9 games unbeaten is better than any other team. So that is we are flying, obviously. Good work from Gassama.
A hell of a reach.
Tried so hard as always. Good work by Gassama. Aaron's does well to get across after I slagged him for coming on. It's a penalty all day, despite what Mr. Stewart says. And a little bit worried personally in terms of who was going to step up, who in this team has the bottle to go give me the ball. But Barami does it. Great penalty. Again, we get out of there with a point. It's better than nothing, obviously. But what was your thoughts on that whole move? Had you gave up hope that we were going to score by that point? Because I certainly had.
Yeah, I didn't think we had it in us. If I was being, really, really honest with everybody there was no, we'll nick this. Stonewall penalty, 100% with you. Gets across him, is clearly a penalty. Yep. And then a wee bit of a who is going to step up?
My fear was that Chermiti was going to take the ball. My telly was going off. If that happened, I couldn't watch that. Yeah,
I did think that they would hand it to him to give him something, and maybe they also thought the second part, you don't want the guy missing in the last minute of extra time, and then all that folds back onto him as well. So maybe a wee bit of protection from his teammates there. But Bajrami never quite convinces me, if I'm being clear there as well. And seeing him step out, I thought this could go all the way back to Albania in terms of that. But yeah, really good penalty, and it's always two sides of a coin because it's a negative result, right? We should be beating teams like Dundee United, right? In my opinion, man for man, we do have a better squad. Yep. We've talked about all of this stuff in terms of teamwork and intensity and all that, but then you put it in the context of the game, which was we're getting back down the road with nothing, and then we got something, and then with Hearts drawing as well, we haven't lost any ground and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I mean, do you know what's the season of goodwill? Yeah, we've picked up a point. There we go. Happy days.
Now who's reaching? But that was us. We roll into Kilmarnock on Saturday night. That fixture time for me is just scary. If that was a 3 o'clock game, I'd still not like going to Rugby Park, but 8 o'clock on a Saturday night's a bit. We'll see how that goes, kind of thing. But we'll leave the podcast here. We've rambled on long enough. Thanks, obviously, everyone for joining us. Thanks for your comments. All the likes and subscribes in the videos are always welcome. But we'll be back on Sunday, looking back at that Kilmarnock game, which I'm sure will be another fun 90 minutes from this Rangers side. But from Tommy myself, thanks for everything tonight, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.